There's a version of self-care being sold to you right now. It's in the amber glow of a luxury candle. It's in the $40 serum sitting on your bathroom shelf. It's the spa weekend you keep telling yourself you'll book once things calm down. And here's what's interesting about that version: it always requires something you don't currently have. More money. More time. A break from the life you're actually living. The message, underneath all of it, is subtle but consistent. The way you feel right now is a problem, and the solution is somewhere outside of where you are. This video is about a completely different idea. Not self-care as escape. Not wellness as a purchase. But something quieter, older, and honestly more effective: the idea that the tools for shifting your mental state are already woven into the fabric of your ordinary day. You just haven't been taught to see them. The 6 practices we're going to walk through today come from Japanese culture, and what makes them unusual is that none of them cost anything. No products. No retreats. No significant time commitment. What they do require is something harder to sell and harder to come by: attention, presence. A willingness to stop running away from your life and start actually inhabiting it. Let's begin. The first practice is called Misogi, and it might be the most radical reframe of something you already do multiple times every single day without thinking about it. Water. You interact with it constantly. The shower in the morning, the tap running while you brush your teeth, washing your hands before a meal, doing the dishes at night. Dozens of times a day, your body makes contact with water, and almost every single time, you're somewhere else entirely. You're thinking about the meeting. You're replaying the conversation from yesterday. You're scrolling your phone with one hand and rinsing a mug with the other. In its traditional form, Misogi is a rigorous Shinto purification ritual. Practitioners would stand beneath freezing waterfalls, not for comfort, but to be stripped clean of mental and spiritual clutter. The cold shock of the water wasn't a punishment. It was a signal. A forced return to the present. The body, overwhelmed by sensation, had no choice but to arrive. You don't need a waterfall. But what if you treated water, every time it touched your skin, as a deliberate reset? A cold rinse at the end of your shower. Washing your hands slowly, with full attention to the temperature, the pressure, the feeling of your palms. It sounds almost absurdly simple. But what it does, physiologically, is real. Cold water activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the part of your body responsible for slowing your heart rate and pulling you out of a stress response. It makes you alert without making you anxious. It clears the mind in seconds, not minutes. The practice is just this: stop treating water as background noise. Use it. Now let's talk about something most of us don't even notice we're doing wrong every single morning. You wake up. Within a few minutes, for many people, within seconds, the phone is in your hand. And what happens in those first moments sets the tone for your entire nervous system's experience of the day. Email. News. Social media. A flood of other people's agendas and anxieties pouring into your mind before you've even had a thought of your own. There's a small, ancient feeling practice that works as a direct counter to this. Before you look at any screen, before you check anything, you walk to your window and you open it. Completely. This is what some Japanese households still practice as a morning ritual, and the biology behind it is worth understanding. Through the night, you've been exhaling carbon dioxide into a closed room. That buildup contributes to the foggy, heavy feeling of waking. When you open the window, you're literally flushing stale air out and bringing fresh air in. But the more powerful effect is sensory. You feel the temperature on your skin. You hear the sounds of the morning, birds, traffic, wind, the particular texture of the world outside your walls. You register the quality of the light. And all of this, together, signals your brain that the day has begun and that it began on your terms, not on the terms of whoever needed something from you overnight. The morning belongs to you for approximately 30 seconds if you let it. This is how you keep it a little longer. Now we move from air to light, and this is where the science gets genuinely compelling. Most people who live in cities spend somewhere between 90 to 95% of their lives indoors. The light inside your home or office is static, artificial, and fundamentally different from sunlight in one critical way: it doesn't change. Natural light shifts constantly throughout the day, in color, temperature, in intensity, in direction. Your body evolved over hundreds of thousands of years to use those shifts as information. They tell your circadian rhythm, your internal clock, exactly where you are in the arc of the day. Static indoor light doesn't provide that information. And when your circadian rhythm is disrupted, which, for most modern people, it chronically is, the downstream effects include poor sleep, elevated cortisol, increased anxiety, and a persistent low-grade sense of being slightly off, slightly depleted, without knowing why. In Japanese, there's a word for sunlight as it filters through the canopy of trees, Komorebi. It refers specifically to that dancing interplay of light and shadow, the way light moves through leaves, changes with the wind, makes patterns on the ground. It's a word that exists because the Japanese noticed something worth naming, that this specific quality of light has a particular effect on how you feel. The practice of Komorebi isn't about going on a hike. It's about intentionally stepping into natural light, especially in the morning, especially early. A 10-minute walk. Standing near a window during a break. Eating lunch outside instead of at your desk. Your nervous system doesn't need much. It just needs enough natural light to recalibrate, to remember that you are part of a larger cycle, that the world moves, and that you move with it. Let's go inside now, and talk about your space. There's a growing body of research on something that most of us already feel intuitively: physical clutter creates mental noise. When your environment is disorganized, your brain is processing background visual information constantly, registering piles, partially finished things, objects out of place, and sending subtle, persistent distress signals as a result. You don't notice it the way you'd notice a loud sound. But it drains you, slowly and steadily, all day long. Japanese organizational philosophy addresses this through two specific concepts that operate as a pair. The first is Seiri, which translates roughly as sorting. It's the practice of making clear decisions about what is actually necessary in your environment and having the discipline to release what isn't. Not decluttering for aesthetic reasons. Not organizing so your space looks like a magazine. But reducing the number of objects your brain has to process and navigate around every day. The courage Seiri requires is the courage to let go, to stop holding onto things out of guilt, or vague future possibility, or the inertia of having always had them. The second principle is Seiton, which means ordering. Once you've kept only what's necessary, Seiton asks you to give every remaining item a specific, logical place. Not because tidiness is a virtue, but because when things have designated homes, you stop spending cognitive energy looking for them, wondering where you left them, or navigating around disorder. Your space stops working against you and starts working for you. The combined effect of Seiri and Seiton is that your environment becomes quieter. And a quiet environment creates the conditions for a quieter mind. Now here is one that may surprise you, because it concerns a sense that modern culture has almost entirely neglected. We live in an era dominated by visual information. Screens everywhere. Aesthetics as a cultural obsession. We design spaces for how they look, we curate feeds for visual impact, we've built entire industries around things being beautiful to see. But there's another sense that connects directly to the oldest, deepest parts of the human brain, and it's almost entirely absent from how most of us move through the day. Smell. The olfactory system, your sense of smell, has a direct neural pathway to the limbic system, the region of the brain responsible for emotion and memory. Unlike your other senses, which pass through a kind of relay station before reaching emotional processing centers, smell arrives almost immediately. It's why a specific scent can pull you back to a memory from 20 years ago in a fraction of a second. It's why certain smells calm you before you've even had the conscious thought that you're calm. In Japan, there's a centuries-old practice called Monko, which translates literally as listening to incense. Not smelling. Listening. The distinction is intentional. To listen requires a quality of attention that passive smelling doesn't. You approach the material, a piece of wood incense, a dried herb, a flower, with stillness and genuine curiosity. You try to hear what it's telling you. You don't need incense. You don't need to buy anything. What you need is the practice of bringing conscious attention to your sense of smell at least once during the day, the steam rising from a cup of tea, the air after rain, the particular smell of morning. When you tune into scent with real attention, you're pulled directly into the present moment, and the loop of anxious thought loses its grip. The last practice today is the one that might be the most counterintuitive for a Western audience, because it involves doing something we generally try to outsource, automate, or finish as quickly as possible: cleaning. In Japanese schools, at every level, from elementary through high school, students clean their own classrooms. They sweep the floors, wipe the desks, clean the bathrooms. Not because the school can't afford janitors. Because the practice is considered educationally essential. It teaches humility, because no task is beneath you. It teaches responsibility, because the environment you inhabit is yours to care for. And it teaches something subtler, that the act of caring for a space is itself a form of discipline that shapes the mind. This practice is called Soji, and what distinguishes it from the Western conception of housework is the emphasis on how you clean rather than merely that you've cleaned. It isn't about efficiency. It isn't about getting it done so you can move on. It's about treating the act of cleaning as a meditative practice, a manual task that grounds you in the physical world and gives your overactive mind something concrete, rhythmic, and real to do. The practice is simple, 10 to 15 minutes, ideally in the morning. Sweeping a floor. Dusting a surface. Wiping down a counter with full attention to the motion, the texture, the physical reality of what you're doing. Your hands are occupied. Your body is engaged. And your mind, for a few minutes, is given a break from abstraction. There's something profound about it, once you stop resisting it. Caring for your space, doing it slowly, doing it well, is a form of saying that your life is worth tending to, that where you live deserves attention. That you are not just passing through. So here's what all 6 of these practices have in common, and why they work when so much of what gets sold as wellness doesn't. They use the body to calm the mind. Not positive thinking. Not affirmations. Not purchasing a new version of yourself. They work through sensation, cold water, morning light, moving air, physical motion, the engagement of neglected senses. They return you to the oldest truth about human well-being, that we are not brains floating in empty space, generating thoughts about a world we're not actually touching. We are physical creatures, embedded in physical environments, and the quality of our inner life is inseparable from the quality of our sensory relationship with the world around us. None of these practices ask you to escape your life. They ask you to stop escaping your life, to stop numbing out, zoning out, scrolling through a curated version of someone else's existence, and to come back to the unfiltered texture of your own. You don't need to start with all 6. You probably shouldn't. Pick one. The window in the morning. A mindful cold rinse. 10 minutes of sweeping before the day begins. Start there, with full attention, and see what happens, because the shift you're looking for isn't somewhere else. It's in the ordinary moments you've been moving through too fast to actually feel.